Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Highruler, and today's video is going to be going over this week at Bungie, and we're going to look at the crafting section of this blog because I think there's a lot of good information in here, and there's a lot of good talk of the short term and the long term when it comes to weapon crafting, which I know a lot of people are both enjoying but also able to pick through it and recognize some of the issues. So hopefully today's blog, guys, kind of walks through what Bungie has envisioned for crafting, and hopefully it's a lot of good information that a lot of us can take away from and feel more confident that crafting is going to be in a better spot. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So they say over the last few weeks, Guardians have been crafting some spicy rolls at the Enclave on Mars. Patterns have been discovered, traits have been enhanced, and exotic glaives have been shaped. As with all things Destiny, the team has been keeping an eye on player conversation around crafting, planning next steps, and looking towards the future. We've got a hot fix coming next Tuesday with a few minor changes and some commentary on feedback items that the team will be looking to address in future patches and tuning passes. So the development team. Since the launch of the Witch Queen, we've been watching some feedback on crafting currencies required for specific traits. One piece of feedback in particular deals with crafting element caps, as some players have been maxing out their elements frequently. Starting next Tuesday with hotfix 4.0.0.4, we'll be increasing element caps from 250 to 1000. And for neutral element, the cap will move from 8500 to 10,000. Now, this is good. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of this on Twitter that everyone, for the most part, there has been a little bit of hesitation from some people, but most people that I've seen want this to be kind of upped. So to see Bungie kind of be like, okay, we see it, we recognize it, let's do it, I think it's a really good move. Now, moving on, they say next season, we are removing Ruinous, Adjurat, Mutable, Drowned, and Energetic elements. Only neutral elements will remain. Now, before I get into it, it does seem like a lot of the time, developers put in these kind of time sinks, right? And currencies are a means of a time sink, right? So you got to find the right weapon with the right currency that you can get off of these weapons, right? Then, of course, you got to, level it up, the deep sight resonance. It does seem like a little bit of a time sink, but when you have all these different currencies, what it can actually do is bog down your whole system. And it seems like for the most part, that was kind of what was happening, right? There was so many different things to keep track. In a game that already does have quite a few things to keep track of, it seems like they really kind of made it so everything was just kind of bogged down by all these elements. But I digress. Let's get into what they were saying. So they say, our initial goal for these currencies were to sustain the interest in non-crafted weapon drops and to retain the chase of weapons with well-rolled perks in a post-crafting Destiny 2. The desire was that the player would continually chase for combinations such as Subsistence plus Rampage to fuel their crafting progression through deep sight weapon completion. While not the only reasons for removing the specific currencies, there were two design changes pre-launch which made elements ineffectual. We initially had a currency per trait. Example, to craft Rampage, you needed a weapon with Rampage. Interesting. Okay. All right. However, due to the technical and usability issues, too many currencies to track, for example, we opted to heavily simplify the currencies to the handful we shipped at launch. I don't know. Is that a handful? What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then ascended alloys? It's 7. That's a little more than a handful, Bungie. We opted to heavily simplify the elements currencies to the handful we shipped at launch. This unfortunately resulted in a decreased interest in chasing a specific trait perk element. Ascended alloys, the exotic quality crafting material that can be found through high-end content or purchased from the Highruler for a high price, made the remaining condensed elements obsolete. The Ascendant Alloy currency was added after we'd already condensed the elements, and we were unable to resolve the experiential issues between these two currencies prior to launch. So it sounds like they kind of knew what they were launching wasn't the greatest thing ever, but then they were waiting for, either players to kind of pick up on it or players to be like, actually, this is fine, before they actually were going to make those changes. So kind of interesting there that they kind of, let in that things probably weren't going to launch in the greatest of way, but they were kind of waiting to see how it all played out. So, okay, fair. Specific elements such as Ruinous and Adjurat became redundant and in some cases in conflict with Ascendant alloys and neutral elements, so we're removing them all together, which is good. That's good. Since launch, we've been also watching player conversation and keeping tabs on backend data. While we don't have specifics to share on future changes, we did want to note a few areas we're looking at. Looking to add more player control over deep sight weapon unlocking of weapon patterns, continuing to monitor deep sight weapon stockpiling, acquisition rates and progression, as well as resonant alloy acquisition rates and behavior. We're also discussing feedback around reshaping costs for those who wish to experiment more frequently with their trait selections. This is the big one, I think, right? This to me is probably the biggest thing that they probably should be looking at, is that people want to kind of test out different combinations on their weapons that they're able to craft, but it seems like the costs were way too high for them to kind of, commit to that, right? So I think if there's any sort of way that Bungie can look at it and be like, okay, we need to do something for players who want to experiment, for players who want to try, right? Because that's what crafting should be, right? Of course, there's going to be players who are going to craft that God roll, right? But there's going to be a lot of players who are going to want to try different combinations of things. And Bungie should be looking at ways to kind of facilitate that with the cost of crafting, right? If they're able to do that, I think you have a lot more people who are more than willing to kind of go out there and be like, okay, I'm going to try this roll, I'm going to try this roll, and we're going to kind of mess around a little bit, right? So I think that's the hugest thing that Bungie needs to look at when it comes to weapon crafting. They go on to say many things all have been sounding off of feedback. Even after these changes go live, we'll continue to monitor the conversation. Pairing feedback with data will help inform our next steps as we continue to iterate on crafting. So there it is, guys. That is everything that you need to know about crafting from this week at Bungie. Honestly, it sounds like they're moving in a good direction here with weapon crafting. I know there's been a lot of feedback, thrown to Bungie about, weapon crafting, everything from just kind of the Twitter users to the high-end players. And it seems like a lot of people were sort of on that same page, but not everybody once again. But hopefully now with, some time under our belts, with some feedback given to Bungie, that crafting can move from a state of, yeah, it's kind of cool, but needs some changes, to crafting is really good. Let's add some more weapons to it. Let's get some more things done with crafting, because it could be a really cool kind of way to spend your time in Destiny. So with that being said, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you guys okay with these changes? Do you guys want to see them go a little bit farther with that? Or are you perfectly okay with crafting is right now? And if you want more Destiny 2 content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a nice little comment. And I'll see you guys next time here on the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day and the night. Take care of yourselves. Later, guys.